back to the Upper Room Art. I'm Casey, and I am here in East Tennessee on this very blustery, snowy cold morning. And it is absolutely beautiful outside. I'm so thankful to be in my warm house, and I pray for anybody who is out in this weather right now. Today I want to start off talking a little bit about my experience with these watercolor pencils. And I'm going to do a couple little drawings with them and talk about some techniques that I've learned with them. I'm currently waiting on my husband to bring up a little board for me to paint on. I'm wanting to get a little desk easel, but I can't currently make it out right now with the way the roads are. I also am going to have a video in the near future about the watercolor markers. I've also been using these, and I love both of these. I think they both have their place, and they differ in the way that they behave. So with the watercolor markers, I found out that they differ in like the pigment concentration, the way they're applied, the blending. I think they produce more fast, vibrant colors, more bold lines, a little more saturated looking. So with your watercolor pencils, they kind of behave like your traditional color pencils. A little more subtle. They have more detail, texture. You can blend them. They can look just like, the watercolor that you would use like with paints or your marker. They also are applied differently. And I'll show you a little drawing that I used with my watercolor pencils the other day. And if you can see in this allium, there's some texture in there. Now that was very easy to achieve with those watercolor pencils. You just kind of draw them on like you're going to do a colored pencil drawing. And then when you add the water, you can get that little more textured look, I think more so than you would with a watercolor marker. A little more detailed, possibly take a little bit more time. And they can also be used just like your traditional color pencil. You don't have to apply water if you don't want to. This one I made last night, and I made with my watercolor markers. Now this was supposed to be a time lapse. I hit the record button on my camera, so I thought I did, and after I was all finished I realized I didn't hit the button. So you can see how that still looks kind of subtle. I have markers that have two different tip sizes, and on one end it's very fine, so I just started out putting a little bit of ink, and I took my brush and just blended it slowly and didn't put a whole lot on there, or it would have been pretty saturated look, which there's a lot of looks that you can do with these markers and pencils, and so that's what's really fun about them. I will continue in a few minutes with my drawing when my husband gets back up here with my little wood piece he's gonna make. I found this in my kitchen, this little cup right here, and I thought it was perfect to put my water in and set my brushes on it. I also found this little thing in my son's room, and I told you guys in the last video, he got married and left some stuff here, so it had a tag on it, so I've claimed it until he comes back to reclaim it. Okay, I'm back. My husband has made a board for me, and I actually have it upside down from how he made it. So it's got like a little lip on the back, so when you flip it over, it's on a tilt. So you can use it either way, but I thought it was kind of cool because I could like set my art up on the back of it. All right, so I've got some art supplies. I'm going to use my Faber-Castell pencils, and I've got a little piece of watercolor paper that actually cut. I have this book right here that I got at Hobby Lobby. It's got 12 sheets, but I've been cutting little small pieces with my cutter that I got the other day from Michael's. So this one is probably about 6 by 4.5. I also got this one right here. This is a pen that you fill with water, a little brush tip on the end. Basically you just squeeze it and it wets the end. Sometimes it puts out a lot of water though, but you can kind of dab it off on a paper towel. But this would be neat if you were like traveling and maybe you were in the car and you wanted to work on watercolor and you couldn't carry something like this. The pen would work perfect for that. I've got some colors out that I want to use, and we're fixing to start. All right, I'm going to use just a few simple techniques that I have been using recently with mine, and like I said, there are many other ones out there, and I'm not going to do all of them today. All right, so I'm going to start off with just some sample spots on the paper to show you how the color gradient works, how they blend, and kind of what direction that you want to blend them. I'm just going to kind of fade off here. Now I recommend starting from light to dark when you're going to shade.
And you can still see the texture from the pencil below. If you come the other direction, see how you're gonna just continue to pull that color over. Now, if you were to start the other way, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, from dark to light. See how that's gonna carry that color all the way over? It's gonna just give it one solid color gradient. So I suggest starting from light to dark if that is the blended look that you're going for. You can also add different colors together. So we'll do a blue and we'll do a yellow over that. And you've just created a green from these two colors. So don't be afraid to mix your colors. I might, practice on something else before you go put it on your final drawing. And I suggest doing that with all the colors before you start using them, because when you add water, they definitely look different. Paper and see the difference in the color.
And the first technique I'm going to use is just like you would if you were drawing with regular colored pencils. And you can always start out light because you can add layers. After you add water and it dries, you can add another layer, and you can speed up the drying process with a hairdryer. I would also recommend mixing colors because I think that looks more natural. If you go look up closely at a flower, you'll see that they have a lot of different colors in them. I grow flowers every year because they're so pretty. I always send pictures to my sister-in-law. She grows flowers too, and my mom. I don't want it to be one flat color. All right, I'm going to add some water to activate it. Now I'm going to add a darker center, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about by adding color to wet paper. It's much more bold, and it also kind of bleeds the color. Now let me show you something else, how I use the watercolor. So I will go ahead and wet my brush and take a pencil, dab it on the tip, and then I'm going to brush it on. Now here's another method. You can take your pencil and a knife, shave off some of the color, put it in there and mix up the color. Now you can also add spots of color around, which I think make it interesting being watercolor. And that looks really pretty. And another thing I do sometimes, which I think is really neat, is just kind of adding some little spots here and there of paint. And I find that my little markers do really well with that. Finish off this little quick practice drawing. I'm going to put a little watercolor bee on there. I've been wanting to add one to my flowers. It's going to be a big bee. I hope I don't see that kind of bee when I'm out in my garden. There's my little quick drawing for this afternoon. And I hope that helped you guys a little bit on maybe not being so nervous about starting the watercolor pencils, because I was definitely like that. You really just gotta just start and practice. Just go buy a practice book. Don't be afraid to get the pages out and try different things, and you're gonna mess up. I did. There's a lot of like watercolor pictures that you can pull off Google and just practice from, or just little tutorials, and that has helped me a lot. And just basically just practicing and getting the feel of the pencils and how to apply them and the different techniques and the amount of water and the brushes. So it just kind of is a balance of different things, but it is so fun to do.
So I'm going to finish with a little art from my Bible reading in the book of Joshua. Early in the morning, the Israelites came to the Jordan River. It was wide and rushing, and everyone wondered, how will we get across? The priests carried the special ark and stepped into the water first. As soon as their feet touched the river, something amazing happened. The water stopped flowing. The river opened up, leaving a dry path right through the middle. The people smiled and laughed as they walked across on dry land. When everyone reached the other side safely, the water began to flow again, and the people thanked God for helping them across. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you come back for the next one, and have a wonderful day, and God bless.